Wow, what an incredible weekend. Look, how else can you say it than what we're doing this weekend? It's this simple. The Ron Paul revolution is back. It's back, and it's in the Libertarian Party this time. And it's really, it's pretty incredible for me to hear Tom Wood say these nice things about me. Tom has been a hero of mine for years, and every time he says this, I'm going to still say I think Tom Woods is the best communicator we have. So all of that credit goes back to Tom. Look, I've been having an incredible time this week. I'm losing my voice a little bit because I've been talking to so many of you, so by tomorrow it will certainly be gone. But it's been amazing going around the country to all the state LP conventions and coming out here. So I just want to say first, a huge thank you to the best person that I know, who is my wife, who is at home with our 2 little kids, so I can come out and do all this stuff. So really all of the credit goes to her. You guys doing the video, if you could clip that and email it to her, that would really win me some points when I go back home. That would be very nice. All right, so let me talk quickly about what it is that we're doing here, okay, and why I think this is so important. So, what's going on in the country? What are the problems that we're facing? And as you guys in this room know, it's a lot more than the craziness that's been going on over the last 2 years. It's really like the craziness that's been going on over the last 120 years that we're dealing with, okay? That's culminated in the craziness of the last 2 years. So what's the big problem in America? Well, let's think about it. Okay, number one, progressives, okay? The main problem here is progressive, starting with the original progressive era, which gave us the income tax and the Federal Reserve and the military-industrial complex, starting with the First World War, the FBI, the 3-letter agencies, and the New Deal. They gave us the warfare state and the welfare state and the central bank. But it's not completely hopeless, because to fight the progressives, we have the conservatives. And the conservatives only have one little problem, which is that they're a bunch of progressives. So, if you can get past that, they're pretty good. So the conservatives in America all endorse the central bank and the warfare state and the welfare state and everything that was wrong with the original progressive era. Conservatives, at their best, are fighting for what progressives believed in 7 years ago. That's when they're at their absolute best. Conservatives are saying, like, hey, let's go back to Barack Obama. They're like progressives, let's say, I just came up with this, driving the speed limit, okay? And it's right off the top of my head. But this is always, without a doubt, it fails. Ask anyone in the conservative movement today about Obamacare, and they'll start talking to you about how we have to, cover pre-existing conditions. Like, they can't even go back beyond just the most recent, and this is why they lose every single battle. What are conservatives doing even when they're fighting kind of the right battle? Like, okay, so we have the indoctrination in public schools, like the latest iteration of it, which I will admit is particularly troubling. But conservatives will stand up and they will say, no, sexual propagandizing of my child until the 4th grade. We're taking a stand here, all right? But why is it that they can never actually win? Because look at from the other flip side, what are they conceding? They're conceding that you can do it from 4th grade through 12th grade, and then through the universities as well. So conservatives never win because they're never attacking the root of the problem. What we stand for is attacking the root of the problem. We stand for repealing the entire progressive era. That's what our movement is about. Every inch of it. Now, we have an incredible opportunity in front of us right now. Something we've never had before. We have, of course, this weekend, what we're doing, and this is just the truth of the matter, right? I don't think anyone could really argue it at this point after today. If everybody who showed up today shows up tomorrow, and I know you're all going to, if we all come in tomorrow, then it is a fact that Ron Paul libertarians have completely taken over the Libertarian Party. What does that mean exactly? Well, there are essentially two big, powerful parties in America, and then there is a third option, which bears the name libertarian. And for a very long time, many libertarians have not been happy with how this party represented our views, to the point that the majority of libertarians aren't even members of the party, because they would rather try to fight for liberty in some other venue. And honestly, with what the party's been for years, who can blame them? But that's all changing now. And one of the things that really gives us this opportunity, right, and it's something that's kind of, it's tragic in a way, but it's maybe just something about the nature of man, but when things are at their worst, we kind of have our best opportunity. There's a reason, I mean, there's several reasons, but one of the reasons why Dr. Paul's message resonated so much in 2008 was because the wars were a disaster. I don't know if people remember how bloody the war in Iraq was in 2005, 2006. It was really 2004, 2005, 2006. So the war was such a disaster. And then the economy crashed. And Dr. Paul was the one who was speaking about those issues and explaining to the American people what caused them. And then also he had a record of having been consistent on these issues over a span of decades. So he had real credibility to do that. Well, right now, we're in another situation like that, where you have these two major issues, which is the COVID regime of the last 2 years has been proven to have been wrong about everything. It's at this point, it's basically settled science that the lockdowns did nothing to mitigate the virus. And that, in fact, all they did was destroy the lives of tens of millions of Americans. And the vaccine mandates and the mask mandates and all of it, they did nothing. All they did was ruin people's lives. And so now we have that going for us. It's not, we're not clapping that people's lives have been ruined, but it's just that does lead to an opportunity for the people who have been consistent about this. And while we were critical of the people in the Libertarian Party who weren't speaking out about this, all of the good libertarian leaders, including, of course, first and foremost, Dr. Ron Paul, was great on COVID from day one. From day one, he was so good. Watching the Liberty Report with Daniel McAdams and Ron Paul, from the first week of COVID, they were completely right about everything. Of course, Tom Woods was the greatest champion of challenging the lockdowns and taking on all of the arguments. Eric July and Maj Touré and all of our leaders were great on this from the very beginning. And so now we have credibility on that. Now, the other major crisis that's really facing the country right now is inflation. And everybody is feeling it now. And basically, no one ever talks about inflation until it gets to this level, except us. We talk about it all the time. And also, we happen to have the advantage of being the only people who even know what it is. And by the way, I don't say this to be like, I'm not looking down at regular people who don't know what inflation is. There's lots of things that I don't know. I am a professional stand-up comedian. I don't really know what a microphone is. Like, I don't know what's inside of it. Someone else does. Before, we were getting a lot of feedback on the microphone, and someone went to me, they go, do you think the gain's too high? And I was like, I don't know what gain is. I have no idea. I'm just saying, there's lots of things that I don't know too. But regular people don't know about this the way we do. See, most people think that inflation means prices of things are going up. But that's not what inflation is. Inflation is the creation of money. It's more money and credit in the system. More money chasing the same amount of goods. So we're the ones who actually understand what's causing this, and no one else is talking about it. It's the Federal Reserve and fiat currency. This is our opportunity. I apologize, Dr. Paul, I did not mean to steal your chant up here. I promise these people have another End the Fed chant in them when you get up here. These people will chant it all night long if you want to. But this is the opportunity that we have right now. There are these crises that are facing the American people. Everybody is waking up to the reality that this system is spinning out of control. I remember back in, it was in the 2008 presidential debates, or maybe it was in the 2012 ones, I can't remember, I've seen all of them. But someone asked Dr. Paul about immigration, and they asked him at one point, they said, oh, well, would you support, building a wall? And Dr. Paul said, I don't know about that. And he said, that wall could be used to keep us in. And at the time, I think to a lot of people that seemed like, well, that's a little bit out there. I mean, the government telling you can't leave? Now, who after the last 2 years thinks that's such a crazy idea, that the government might do that? So people are more open to this message now than ever before, and we also have the opportunity with the internet and huge podcasts and huge platforms to talk to more people than we've ever been able to before. This is a big opportunity, and now we also will have the third party that bears the name libertarian saying the things exactly the way we think they should be said, giving the real, authentic libertarian message, the Misesian, Rothbardian, Ron Paulian message that we all love so much. That's what this is about for that. And I'll just add that to me, one of the central messages of the campaigns of 2008 and 2012 was the power of ideas and how much ideas matter. And I think that sometimes we can lose sight of that, and you can feel like, well, okay, even if we do convince more people of this, I mean, how does that translate? How do we actually seize power and roll back the state and all this? And I would just tell you this, right? Think about how much two things. How much the power of ideas has meant in the past. Think about someone like Thomas Paine, who wrote pamphlets, and he changed the world. Okay? But ideas have changed societies for all of human history. And the other thing I would tell you is, think about how much our enemies value the power of ideas. Why is it that they launched these propaganda campaigns? Think about the propaganda behind the lockdowns and the vaccines. The biggest they made the propaganda for the war in Iraq look like nothing. I don't know, people who are my age, in your late 30s, we remember that in 2002, the year-long propaganda campaign to lead us into the war in Iraq. Well, how come they didn't just invade Iraq in the Christmas of 2001? They wanted to. They had the plans drawn out since the 90s when they had invaded Iraq. But they needed a year of a campaign of propaganda in order to work up enough support so that they could get away with doing it. And you see, even through this COVID regime, once the popular support goes, the tyranny goes too. And the truth is that we've never really, outside of the Ron Paul campaigns, in modern American history, had anyone explain libertarianism to the American people in the way that it's supposed to be explained. And the result of that was enormous enthusiasm, and millions of people converted. And I'm telling you, because I'm out there in the world doing it, there are still, the vast majority of Americans have not heard this message yet. There's no reason why we can't go from having a couple million libertarians to having 20 million libertarians. Yeah! We can do that. And in fact, I'll tell you, we're going to do that. And we're going to do that. So get ready. And I don't know, as Tom stole Scott's job, I'm also going to steal Scott's job and introduce our final speaker, which really, I don't know, everyone who knows me knows what an honor this is to introduce your final speaker to the night. And I don't know what else I can say, because I've basically spent the last decade of my career saying all the nice things that I could say. But I will always, for the rest of my life, be indebted to this man for introducing me to these ideas that changed my